Hello, I am the cartoonist M. Rashid. This cartoon is part 3 of my breaking down and addressing the responses to a previous cartoon called The Same But Crappier. I used 3 classic racist white conservative talking points as examples of false flag misdirection in that cartoon. And the response to that cartoon was that I was scared of the talking points and couldn't actually address them, even though I was only using them as examples of false flagging. But they're trying to pretend that I was, it was dumb. So that forced me to actually address them one by one in a separate cartoon because of how they act. So this is the third of that group here. So this, the black on black crime trope, I saved it for last. I didn't go in order of how they were listed in that cartoon. I went through, I saved the black on black one for last because it was I'm not going to say it's the dumbest. It's just that concept has been debunked a billion times by activists across social media for years, but the white conservatives are still on lock team rah-rah. They're just going to keep repeating that same nonsense because they're on team rah-rah. It doesn't matter what you say or whatever. Like, they're using it as a talking point. And they're just lock arm goose stepping their way through team rah-rah. That's why they keep bringing it up. I've had long arguments and walked it down and showed them why it was nonsense. And they couldn't respond, and then it finally ends up just fading away. And then 2 weeks later, you see them posting the exact same, but what about that there black on black crime? As if we never had the discussion. So facts don't matter. They don't care about the actual scholarship. They're just repeating their false flagging. So the bottom line of the black on black crime concept is it's a component of the for-profit prison industrial complex. After slavery, the most powerful, the legacy families who built their wealth from the slave institution, which was almost everybody since it was a free slave economy. The most powerful of them, though, they built into the 13th Amendment that chattel slavery is wrong, where slavery is wrong and now abolished, except in the case of people convicted of a crime. That was the loophole that they put in place so that they could continue slavery. So over the next century and a half, they've established a situation where they're able to feed black people, particularly black men, into the for-profit prison system so that they can use us as convict labor. So the different steps and things they took to make this possible is first they took the manufacturing out of the urban areas. They took manufacturing dollars away from us, and the bit of wealth that we had from the manufacturing era, they introduced crack, the designer drug industry, and took all the wealth that we'd managed to build from that time, from the manufacturing era. They took it and gave it to Reagan for his counter wars, and continued the site like nothing was done. They, you saw when Gary Webb's reports came out, and they saw what the the government and the intelligence agency had done to us with the so-called war on drugs. It was just a scheme to, one, take our accumulated wealth from the manufacturing era, and two, to create a situation where now they're just putting black people into these prisons, So this is what's actually happening to my people. We were made artificially impoverished during the manufacturing era, when blacks were like rising up the economic social ladder. They encouraged the top ones of there to like move up out of there. So they like moved into white suburban areas. And then the remaining ones, they took their wealth from them, artificially impoverished them, and started feeding them into this poorly funded schools into prison pipeline situation to like feed the convict leasing. And they started they made the for-profit prison system publicly traded on Wall Street. So like these are all like key items where you could see there, it's the modern day version of the same system that was in place during chattel slavery, like an entire like system model around using black bodies as wealth. So when you go into these poor areas that are actively being managed by the white racist aristocracy, done in a very specific way, they the gangs, the technique used to like create these gangs are the same as what Robert Pape explained in how the youth are radicalized in the Middle East to help keep those nations unstable. You're like radicalizing these youth and turning them into trafficking gangs, hyper-violent trafficking gangs. They're using the intelligence agencies are using the same techniques inside of our urban areas with these youth gangs, pretending it's just them. But no, this is an active system being used by intelligence agencies to do this on purpose, to keep these communities unstable, like a war zone, like a overseas war zone, doing it on purpose so that they get in their own, the continuing to siphon wealth out through trafficking and keeping everybody like in fear and unstable, like local communities, the same way these sovereign nations are now unstable. Like all of this is done on purpose by the white racist aristocracy so that they could keep us in a state ripe for continued exploitation and plunder for their economic benefit. So when they say, but what about that there black on black crime? Like it's all my fault, when history itself can track, in recent history, you could track what they did to me. So black on black crime. Now, nobody's like targeting white people in that way. I mean, I'm not even going to say that. The 1% doesn't want competition from anybody, not even the lower ranking members of their own group. So I would expect a certain amount of like keeping an eye on them to keep them, I don't want a whole bunch of like white millionaires coming up the ranks competing with the top guys. They don't want that. So they're controlling it, So if they have to do some sabotage among them too, they will. But it's nowhere near as bad as what's going on with me. Keeping them moderately sabotaged so that they don't compete is very different from using me as their preferred prey. Totally different. So the fact that the white on white crime homicide numbers are comparable to mine, but they conveniently always ignore that in their, well, what about black on black crime rhetoric? They'll step right over it and not even. So I'm gonna have all of this going on that I just described going on with me. This is an active attack on my family. you know, keeping me like so that he can prey upon me for his big money and keeping me in this state. That one with his comparable numbers is like that because there's some light sabotage going on. But the reality is he's never wanted shit. He's a inherent bottom feeder lowlife. That's why his numbers are comparable to mine. Mine look that way because I'm actively full force sabotaged and fed into his machine. They don't want to talk about that. When you bring up, well, what about white on white crime? Why are your numbers comparable to my numbers when you don't have the same trash going on? They don't want to talk about that because it shines the spotlight on you're a worthless piece of shit. You've always been. And that's why Dr. Sewell's black rednecks and white liberals pointed the spotlight on who you were and why it looks that way and why you get all you're uncomfortable when that topic comes up. Black on black crime shows the spotlight on you and how fucked up you are in reality. But keep bringing it up. You're gonna make me dig full force into that. I don't have a problem making fun of like worthless poor whites. But if you want to piss me off, I will trigger the fuck out of you. Keep it up. Peace.